Gabrielle. Welcome to Spark TV.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited, and you have brought a cocktail, so you're already
Yes.
my favorite person. Cheers to you and the
Cheers. Ding.
podcast. Woohoo.
Thank you.
So good. Let's just set the tone, set the context. Let's tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Okay, sure. So my name is Gabrielle Reiher and I'm an artist. And I recently founded my own company, which is called Custom Made Artworks. And what I do is I create original handmade artworks tailored to suit any space. So I can work, with individuals, or I can work with designers, developers, and I can, so I've worked with hotels, I've worked, someone's lounge room, presents for a friend, it varies. But basically I create unique handmade large scale abstract artworks designed for you.
I love it. This is amazing
Yeah,
and so creative.
thank
How
you.
have you been an artist all of your life, or what's the goal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've done lots of things, but I've always painted. So even when I was a little kid, I used to always paint on we didn't have much money growing up, so I'd get hard rubbish and then I'd find all of the neighbors had always had paint in their sheds, like leftover paint, and so I'd ask if I could use it, or I'd get it from the art room or whatever. And so I'd just paint furniture and then I'd paint walls, and my mum was amazing, she'd let me paint everything, so I could paint the house, I could paint my bedroom. So I've always been
So
painting.
cool.
But I've also been a casting director and a TV director, a theatre director. I actually owned a theatre in Melbourne.
Wow.
But over the years, I've realised that the one thing I really sort of love doing the most is painting, and it's very isolated. So it's very solo. So finally, I'm trying to figure out that blend, I guess, of networking and connecting with people, but still having all that alone time. Because it's just sort of, that's the only downside, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I do love it, and I've always loved it. My
My
ex-girlfriend used to say, you need to go paint the crazy away. Like when I get a bit manic, if I paint, I just calm right down. And so that's also, I think, an indicator that it's what I'm meant to
I
do.
love that. And it's so funny though. Even just saying that it's such a solo, exercise, I feel like that's the plight of the business owner though, as well, right? Like as business
100%.
owners, we're just behind our desks by ourselves
Yeah.
going, hello, does anyone know I
And
exist?
totally. We want that. We want to be able to just do whatever we want. But then when you're doing it, it's kind of like,
Mm,
hello. But
totally.
I do love it. I do love it.
I know, it's so funny because so I was at this event and this woman said to me, because I work from home and my husband is like a big wig in mining, and she was like, what do you
Oh,
do
my
just
partner works in mining too. Stop
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah. We'll get back
Oh,
to
they're
that.
good.
Sorry.
And she's like, what do you do? Just sit at home all day and wait for him to come home? And I was
Oh
like,
my God.
what? I was like, I'm actually building an empire here.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But some days secretly, I'm like, I haven't talked to anyone all day. I am actually waiting for him to come home.
Me too. I know. I feel like
Um,
I battle that internal guilt. Like some days I'll be struggling so hard with resistance and my
yes.
own self-doubt or whatever. And I will literally watch The Real Housewives of Orange County all day. And then
Yes.
I'm hate myself. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Nothing all day. And I'll work 14 hours to try to make up for it. And it's so stressful. But I think that the feeling comes from that too, because I have had
Mm,
the same thing. Because my partner's a minor, they're
yeah.
like, oh, so does she pay for everything? And I'm like, well, she does help
Pisses
me
me
out.
off.
I know, it's so rude. It's
It
like
is.
I'm actually doing 50 people's jobs, not just one. You're
Yeah.
doing one and getting paid for it. I don't even have guaranteed income coming in, and I'm doing 50
Totally.
jobs. It's so frustrating.
It
But
is so
I chose this.
frustrating.
Yeah.
What
I
are
know.
we doing? What are we doing?
I know. I totally get it. What mine does your partner work at?
So we
Oh,
are in Kalgoorlie at the moment. So he works for a company called Evolution Mining, which is like a gold mining company.
yeah, cool. Okay. So my partner's up in Moranbah.
Oh,
She does
yeah, in Queensland.
she's
Yeah.
yeah, so she's an electrician. She does week on, week off. But I think it's hopefully I probably shouldn't. say too much. Maybe we could, I don't know, but hopefully,
That's right. We'll move on. We'll move on.
hopefully it'll come to an end soon.
I know it's really hard though, right? Like, you know, I
Mm,
know that as business owners, we can work from anywhere. But it's a really hard balance, like personal life and business life.
100%.
And FIFO, like partners, super hard. Like, yeah,
Yeah. How do you manage it? Because does he go away and come back? Or is it a he? Sorry.
yeah, it's a he.
Yeah.
So he, no, I know you've got to check. It's all good. I love that.
People,
Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
You can get in trouble.
Yeah.
No, so we are residential, so that's why we live in Kalgoorlie. But he does travel like on and off for bits and
Fair bit.
pieces, so
Yeah.
it's a bit ad hoc. I
Yeah.
mean, fortunately, so like literally in a week's time, he's got to go up north and whatever. So I'm like tagging along and gonna stay in Perth for a week. So I'm like, I kind of
Cool.
try and take advantage of his travel.
Yeah, it's
But yeah,
good. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
And
smart.
and it is the one thing where I'm like, okay, I should be like, we are lucky that we can run our businesses from anywhere, right? Like, as
Yeah,
long as I have an internet connection, that's my
that's right.
baseline. Then I'm
Yeah.
like, we're good. I mean, different for you though, being in a creative endeavor, like you can't paint anywhere.
Well, that's true. I actually left Melbourne when COVID hit, so back in
Good
March
call.
2020. I know, best decision.
Yes.
It was too stressful there, so I left there. And I've actually managed to paint on the road in my van, and
Oh, cool.
I've found that it's actually weird. I think it's because I'm just in like the flow state more, but I seem to get more work. Whereas now I've been on Bribie Island, sort of in one spot, more secure.
Yeah.
But it's been harder to just. I'm not in that sort of zone. Like it's
Mm,
interesting. So I have to figure out that balance. But it is better overall to have a studio I can work from. So as long as I can go back to my studio and create the work, because I throw paint around. Like I don't know if you've seen on my website, but I make big ones and I throw like buckets of paint. So I need, like, I have done it in the park, but it's not really, fair to others. So I try, yeah, I need a studio. I'm
I
actually building, so I'm excited.
need an entire building.
Yes, ideally, I need a huge warehouse in New York City, but we'll get there one day.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, that's so good. But it's funny what you just said about like, you know, when your back's against the wall, like when you're hustling, when you were on the road, like
Mm,
that more work would come. And now that you're kind of calmer, safer in one
yeah.
place, perhaps, I don't know. Do you find, I don't know, I always find that like a lot of people, a lot of women in business, they wait until the money runs out. They're at the end of the month and they haven't made their sales
Yes,
to like panic and hustle
that's
instead of
exactly what I
just
do.
doing it like on and on and on.
100%. And I think I don't know like the statistics or whatever, but maybe it's
Mm.
because we have always sort of lived that way, or I don't know. For
Hmm.
me anyway, it's like I'm used to that sort of sense of urgency and like, I don't know, survival mode. And
Yeah.
it's not healthy. And I know that, but it's in my body, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to
Mm.
work it out. But it's also like, yeah, I find the same thing. So I have to trick myself. Like I have to be like, okay, put that money into that account and then I don't know what's there. And then I'm
Yes.
like, okay, I've only got $20 left. And then all of a sudden I'm like working so hard. And I
Mm.
have to fully convince myself, like I delete the app and everything.
Yeah.
Try to
I
force
love
myself.
that.
Yeah, I don't know what other people do. Like any tips would be really actually helpful, because keeping that sense of urgency but not
Mm.
panic. Like
Yeah.
what's do we have a word for it? Like drive, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting because I kind of feel like it goes back to, so before we hit record, we were talking about how if we were busy, we can get everything done. But if we have a day off,
Yeah.
like we do literally do nothing. Like it is like
Yeah.
if I have a day of back-to-back podcast recordings, I will do like 100 things like in between with the
Yes.
time I have.
Yes.
If I have no meetings, I'm like, I don't want to work today. Like, what the hell?
Maybe, hey, maybe it's actually like more efficient. Maybe we are actually
Mm.
more efficient. It's like,
Yeah.
hang on, this is my day off. I'm going to enjoy it. Or it's like, well, I've
Yes.
already got something on that day. I might as well pack it all in there.
Mm.
I'm going to think that, because I think that's what it is after hearing you say that.
Yeah.
And I think, do you have any kids?
No.
No, me neither. So I guess we're lucky in that way because we don't
Mm.
have to do things every day.
Yeah.
But I do think, as we were saying before we hit record, that people with kids, they have that forced, they have to do
Yes.
something every day. So
Yeah.
they are more productive and they have to be, and they can't get out of it. So, I'm not trying, like, it's,
Yeah,
I
totally.
cannot understand it, but I think there's something in it. I think there is.
Totally. It's just so funny, like that you mentioned about the kid factor. For some weird reason, on the last couple of podcasts, I've said I reckon mums make the best business owners because they
Yes.
just find time. Like they find time that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I 100% agree. My sister-in-law is a machine. She's amazing. So she does like import export. So she moved here from Hong Kong and she
Oh,
speaks Cantonese and Mandarin. And my
wow.
brother does too. They're super high achieving, amazing people. But she has built her business from nothing. And
Mm,
she will literally squeeze into like 2 minutes an entire, morning of work. It's amazing
mm.
because
That
she
is
has
so
to.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I feel like it's almost the hack is be busier, you know,
Yeah,
just
totally.
schedule things in your diary just so you have no time. So then you do your
Yeah.
tasks.
Well, you know what? This is exactly what I've been thinking about lately. And I think that, so, okay, my first business was my theatre. So I opened an
Mhm.
independent theatre and gallery. It's called the Owl and Cat Theatre. It did really well creatively.
Oh,
But in terms of
cool.
business, I couldn't sustain the money. So then I had to close it because I was stressed. And so I ended up losing heaps of money, but
Wow.
learning
Yep.
heaps.
Yep.
And so what I learned from that is you need to schedule days off. So as long
Oh,
as
yeah.
you book those in as well, I think that
Yeah.
you're right. I think overbooking everything is probably the way to do it.
Yeah.
As long as you're also booking in, like, as bad as this sounds,
Nice.
time with
Yeah.
your partner,
Yes. Yes. I
time
literally
with your
have
cat.
dinner in my diary tonight so that I didn't do anything else.
Totally. And if
Yeah.
that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. And I feel like if men have to do that when they run their businesses, there's no question asked,
Mm.
And so it's like, I think that the gender norms do play a role. And
Yeah.
even like I'm a lesbian woman, so the gender norms are different, but I still was raised as a girl in a female
Mm.
world. And I feel
Mm.
like there's a lot of expectation to not have the masculine energy and not,
Yeah.
I don't know. That I think that has to play a part in the guilt.
Oh, totally. I think there's and it's also hard too because I feel like as women we've been told that the masculine way is the way to run a business, that it is
Exactly.
hustle, 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 go, go, go. And don't get me wrong, I like hustling. I
Yeah.
come from the era of hustle. Like I come from so business a decade ago was all about hustle. Now I know we
Yeah.
like our space and we like time and we like balance.
I'm the
But I'm
same. I've
yeah.
gone through that same journey. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it is that it is as women, we were taught that the man's way is the way. And so I probably, when I started business, was like, oh, well, I have to hustle hard and I have to not
Yeah.
sleep. And oh my God, I
Same.
had a male co-founder once who told me, like, if you're tired, just drink a coffee. And I was like,
Oh,
wow,
oh my
okay.
gosh. That was me with my theater.
Oh,
I lived on like 3 hours sleep a night and I can't even remember half of it. Like people will
yeah.
say, oh, I don't even remember them. It's so
Yeah,
not worth it.
no. No, it's not. I feel like you got to swing in both directions sometimes. You kind of got to go,
Yeah.
okay, a period of hustle, and then, okay, I worked really hard so I can get some space, and just feel
Yeah.
what it feels like, and one day find a balance. I'm
I
not
think
sure if
so.
I agree that balance happens on day one, you know,
No, you got
especially
to
if you're still
hustle.
having a job and a business. That's hard.
I think so too. I
Mm,
think there's like seasons for everything, but
yeah.
the biggest thing I've been learning is to listen to your body. Like, because without our health, we can't do anything. So it's
Yeah.
like health is wealth, right? So it's like
Yes.
your body will tell you. And whether my brain likes it or not, my body will tell me if I'm tired. So I'm trying now to just use that as my indicator for
Mm,
when I need to go slower. But
yes.
it's interesting because today I was like, okay, I'm doing an interview with you,
Yeah.
and then I'm doing my podcast with my friend. So I've got a late night because
Yeah.
she lives in France. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be working until like 10 or 11. So I can probably have a few hours to chill. But
Yeah.
I still felt guilty or whatever. But then I forced myself to do it. And I was just
Yeah.
relaxing. And I have this list. I even set an alarm in my phone saying, do the admin, call the 20 people, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm at a cafe. I know. I'm at a cafe and my phone dies and they plug it in for me. And then the waiter comes over and he's like, an alarm's just gone off that says you need to do your admin and call 20 people.
That is amazing.
I was like, oh, well, there we go. Anyway, I didn't do that. But what I did do is enjoyed myself and relaxed before this because I was
Yeah.
looking forward to this and I didn't want to miss it again because I kept
Yeah.
getting confused. Anyway, get this. He ends up being the manager and is going to refer me to the owner of the building for custom made artworks.
Oh my God. How
I know.
good is that?
So I just had a nice time, had a wine, didn't stress, ended up getting more of a lead than I would have otherwise. So I was like,
That
that
is
has to
all.
be a sign.
It's such a good thing when like, but you're open to business, like you'll have conversations with people.
Yeah.
You never know where leads are going to come from. Like, yes, it is good to
Yeah.
do in and call you 20 people, but you kind of never know where sales are going to come from
Totally.
in business.
It's so exciting, but it's weird as well. Like I
Yeah.
always think about it. Like I could choose to speak to that person or not, and it could
Mm.
alter the whole trajectory of my life. Like I've always thought about that.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And imagine like, oh my God, I just got goosebumps. This is fun. It's like, imagine that too. Like, then you have the power. Like, so in my mind, I'm like, have the conversations. Don't ever
Yeah.
not have the conversations, because that
Yeah.
one conversation could be the thing, could be the
That's
game
right.
changer.
You
Yeah.
never know who it is. That's exactly right. And you can, and it's all up to us. Like we can choose to be in a good mood. We can choose to be positive.
Yeah.
We can choose to share or not share. Because he said to me, he was like, "Oh, so how's your day been?" In that moment, I could say, "Good, thanks."
Fine.
But I was like, "Yeah, it's been great. I'm actually preparing for a podcast. I've just launched my business." Blah, blah, blah. And then
Uh,
that, you know what I mean? And
mm.
I thought about that. I was like, lucky I'm chatty. It comes natural, but it is a
I love
choice
it.
too. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
No, and it's great too, because, sometimes people hate sales, but I'm like, just tell more people what you do.
That's it.
Stop thinking about it as sales. Just
Yeah.
like tell people
Talk.
and just
Yeah.
talk. Yeah. And I'm like, that's why I always relate it to wine. I'm like, just think about it like
Yes.
having a wine with someone, having a chat. Like
Just
that's
chatting.
all it is. And if
Well,
they're
that's
not the
all.
right person, they might know the right person.
That's right. And if they don't, nothing lost. Like, you know what I
Totally.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know when I saw your podcast was called A Wine With, I was like, that's amazing. That's exactly what I would do, because every time I've ever done anything, it's always been over a wine.
Yeah.
And me and my partner always talk about it. We're like, we always have our best ideas at the pub. I'm like, totally.
Totally.
It's because we're
Totally.
relaxed, I think.
It's so good. Well, yeah, my husband and I call it board meetings. So like I
Yeah.
say, I need a board meeting. So we go to the pub, have a wine, and like thrash everything out. Like, what's going on? Like, and I unload
Love
about
it.
my business. He unloads out his work. And I'm like, everything's better over wine. It's just
100%.
good. It is good.
How long have you been working for yourself for?
So since 2011. So I think this is year 13. Lucky
Yeah, cool.
13. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a long time. You know, it's not
And
for the
have
faint of heart.
No, it's not. And have you had other little jobs to sort of top up, like, a cleaning job here or there along the way?
I was working full time. So my other business, so outside of Spark, I have a business called Scrunch, which is an influencer marketing software tool and social media agency. And when I first started that, I was working full time at Telstra, and I actually worked full time building that business for years. And it wasn't until we raised capital that I had to go into it full time. But
Yes.
ever since then, I've just worked for myself, and
Yeah, cool.
yeah, which has been crazy. And so I've got two businesses now. I've also had an e-commerce business that I built through COVID and then sold.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, but it's full on. It is full on though. Like, I know, again, we were talking before we hit record because we're both chatty. And it is crazy, like that whole, putting things off and the sales. And I was like, it doesn't end. Like, I kind of go 12 years in and I'm still figuring it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's still, everything changes. There's a new social media platform that you got to
Yeah.
get your head around. There's this, there's that. It's like a never ending journey of
Growth. Yeah.
growth and learning and connecting
Totally.
with people. It's crazy.
So one of my best friends in the whole world, her name's B. She's she's an influencer, so she does YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
So she's actually a jazz musician by trade. She's super smart.
Wow.
And when we were young, like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
she would always have
I
amazing
remember
hair.
that time.
Yeah, remember that? Anyway, she'd always have amazing hair. I was a dental nurse. We were both we were both working retail, like as managers. And she's like, I want to be a singer and I'm an artist. And I was like, I want to be a painter and a theater maker. And like we weren't doing anything we wanted.
Yeah.
Anyway, years have passed and we both now do what we want full time. We're both entrepreneurs and creatives. And so we've decided to start a podcast talking about the process.
I mean, interesting though that you are now living your dreams, being a creative
Thanks.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh, Well, that's right. Well, that's the thing. We've started this podcast purely because we need to talk to other people to connect, to
Yes.
not feel like whenever we talk, we feel better. We both
Yeah.
feel more motivated. We're
Yeah.
both like, oh, yay, I feel like, so you kind of remember you're not alone in the experience,
Yeah.
but it's always changing as well. And like
Mm.
you think you get your head around it, and then that's right, it's constantly changing. And so we're like, you know what? It's kind of like, if you're brave enough to do it, then you're brave enough to keep doing it. But
Yeah.
it's not, like you said, for the faint of heart, because yeah, you kind of got to keep being brave, you know what I mean? Whereas like
Yeah.
it's safe to just get a job. It's boring,
Yeah.
but it's safe.
Yeah.
Whereas this is fun, but it's also scary.
It's so scary, and it's exhausting too. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
why not being optimistic today, but it just the reality. Like, it's it's even hard. Like, I know, even thinking about getting a job, I'm like, I don't think I could have a job now. Like, I'm too far
No.
gone. I would be
Yeah.
so bored out of my brain.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think, like, in this like economic climate, because I've watched too much of the Today Show lately, like I also feel like having a job is risky these days, right? Like, you could get
This is what
fired
I
at
always
any
think.
time.
The company can just go bust and you get made
Totally.
redundant, or they
Yeah.
can go bankrupt and you get nothing. Like
Yeah.
people can get fired. Exactly. This is what I
Yeah.
think too. I love that you just said that. Because
Yeah.
it's like,
Well, and
well,
like,
nothing's
I
stable anyway.
totally. So why not bloody live your dreams?
Exactly. There we go. See, we are being positive. We're just being real about it. And I respect that.
Exactly.
I respect that a
Exactly.
lot.
I
Because
know. And
people need to know the truth.
they really do, don't they? Well, then, okay,
Yeah.
so truth telling. So
Okay.
what is it like to like be an artist and run a business? Because
Oh my gosh.
I've run like agencies and product businesses and memberships and stuff. I don't know what it's like to be a creative in business. What is
Oh my
that
gosh. It's honestly, I feel like I have two personalities
like? Yeah.
almost. And I have to try to like see it as a positive, because I tell
Mm,
myself, not everyone can use both sides of their brains. This is something I can be proud of. But at the same time, like you said, it's exhausting, because I'm like, part of me just wants to paint full time and throw caution to the wind. I just want a manager. I just want to paint in my studio and get drunk and be left alone to be philosophical all day. But if I
sign me
actually,
up.
yeah, yeah, but I have tried that, and it actually causes you to go into like a real weird spin. It's not healthy. And you don't actually create your best work without integration of new information. So I feel like, creativity is like a well, and like a jar, and I see it getting filled up by living life and doing things and meeting people and experiencing things, and it fills and fills and fills, and then you've got heaps to work with. And then you work and you create all this art, and it goes right down again. And I've got a few jars, because I do lots of things. So I can make film, I can do theater, I can perform, paint, whatever. But doing business and balancing like that is really weird. And I've started recently to get obsessed with the idea of the intersection of art and commerce, because there's this whole world of like assets and investing. It's almost like shares. And so there's this like ultra high income layer. And I want to understand it, and I want to get involved in that level. So I'm like, okay. So I've started like doing authenticity certificates and signing all my things and only doing originals. And then that means is the person buying it is now getting an asset that they can put on their insurance. And as my career grows, their asset also grows in value. So they're investing in individuality. That's my catchphrase I've come up with.
I love it.
Thank
I'm
you.
in. Where do I sign?
I actually did a marketing course. I can't take full credit for that. And a guy helped me come up with it, called David.
So cool.
But that's really intriguing to me, because it's like, sales 101, what are they getting out of it? Obviously the room's going to look cooler, or the Airbnb will be worth more money because it looks cool, or people want to take photos next to a cool wall. So then you've got your Instagram followers, like all that makes sense. But for them to get a physical asset as well, I love that. So that has really piqued my interest. And also, I think I finally realized, after working in advertising for a little while, and my old boss, Andrew English and Nigel, they were so good to me, and they helped me to see that my ideas are valuable. So what I've realized now is that most artists are just getting used or aren't being seen.
Mm.
So it feels powerful for me to be like, I'm going to be paid what my ideas are worth. And
Yes.
I like the feeling, but it's like now I'm trying to work out how to get the data together and how to justify that, because it's new to me too. Like, I know that my last job, I came up with this cool idea, did it, and then they got, I think it was like 20 times their initial Instagram following just from that one idea in like a day. And they were all
Wow.
like, holy moly, like we'd never imagined this would happen. And we got all this press.
Oh,
And
wow.
I knew, like, in my, because I just work kind of off energy, in my heart, I knew it was a good idea because it was going to connect people to each other, and they would feel something. So
Mm.
it was called Arrival, and it was an exhibition at the Melbourne, what's it called, airport. And
Yep.
basically, we just took photos of people meeting and hugging. I thought of it because of
Oh,
Love Actually, you know, when they hug at
yes.
the airport.
I
So
love
nice.
that. Yes.
Yeah. And I was trying to get a job with these guys, and they're like a travel company. And I thought, oh, I'll give them one of my good ideas. So this is interesting. Okay. So in my brain, I have my real ideas that are like mine, they're like my art ideas. And then I've got like business ones that I'm willing to kind of give away, or like that's just like the Excel spreadsheet. But then my like precious ideas I keep. And it took me about 6 months to work out how do I work in a commercial space doing these abstract artworks and be an artist that has my precious ideas. And
Mm.
I've only just come to the real, I guess I'm the point I'm at now with it, and it might change, is you can't separate it. So I think as an artist, it's impossible. You know, your
Mm.
soul goes into it or you don't care. It's like all or nothing. So I feel like now that I know that and I understand that that is the value, so I just need to price accordingly. So
Yeah.
it's like, I think, yeah, I struggle. It's complicated. I've read a book called The War on Art. No, The War of Art
Yes. Yep.
recently. Have you read that?
I haven't, but it's one of
Oh
those
my gosh.
classics that should be on my bloody book wall.
I will literally send it to you because it's only quick. Actually, the audiobook's even better because it's like one little paragraph per page. It's almost like memes before memes. So it's really digestible.
Yeah.
Basically, it's for artists and entrepreneurs. So he talks about if you're, you know, starting an entrepreneur, if you've got an idea and you want to start a new business, or you've got an idea, a product you want to create, or a painting you want to make, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it takes the same, it's actually coming from the same space in you. And so
Wow.
that's interesting. So then I think about it and I'm like, okay, so it's not actually that different. It's
Mm.
just that I have the conditioning of the world saying that art isn't valuable, or my experience of people saying, you know,
Mm.
that's not a real job. So I'm trying to prove something. And like, it's just mainly sort of clearing the
Noise.
clutter of negative
Yeah.
self-belief,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Oh, yes. Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
I'm like, I have
Oh,
a
wow.
degree, I have experience every morning, like trying to remind myself it's okay to be paid. And then there's
Oh,
people going around
absolutely.
getting paid like $400,000 and they're working 3 hours a day in the office. I'm like, they don't care. Why do I?
Totally. And it's so interesting because I feel like women especially do this. It doesn't matter if you're a painter or
Yeah.
you're a freelancer offering copywriting services. Women do that. They're like, oh my God, am I enough? Do I
Yeah.
know what I'm doing? I'm charging too much. I don't want people to feel like I'm taking too much
They'll
money.
work overtime. They'll get paid less than they need to.
Yeah.
Totally.
Stop it,
But
everybody. Stop it. We're not doing that
100%.
anymore. Yeah.
We don't do that here. We don't do
We
that at
don't do that
Spark.
here. No, we don't do that at Spark. People get paid. People get paid here.
Yes.
I heard a really good one the other day as well, because you know how people often say, get paid what you're worth?
Mm.
I heard an awesome one that was like, you are already worth what you're worth. Your value is not in question here. So get
Yeah.
paid on the value
What
you
you want.
deliver to someone or what you want.
Hey.
But don't
Yeah.
associate your
I
worth
like
with
the
that dollar
delivery.
amount.
I
Yeah.
like that because that doesn't
Mm.
define your worth.
Totally. You're already amazing. Now go
Yeah.
charge them based on,
What you
skill,
need or what.
experience,
Yeah. Yeah.
value,
Yeah.
like all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, that's a really good way to think
I
about
like that.
it.
Yeah, I
Mm.
like that a lot. Yeah. Okay, this is cool. So language, right? And
Yes.
words, how
Yes.
powerful. I've been thinking a
Oh.
lot about one in particular lately. I just did a post about it. So I used to, growing up, my mum always said you're a people pleaser, and I always thought I was too, and I was.
Hmm.
But I'm not anymore. And I don't even like saying people pleaser because I feel like it has a positive spin. So
Yeah.
now I've started saying, whenever people say people pleaser, I correct them and I say, oh, you mean self-hurter.
Oh, wow. Isn't
So
that
whenever I think,
interesting?
yeah, and it's helping me so much because whenever I think about it, I'm like, oh, I'm just people pleasing. It's like I'm just self-hurting because no
Yeah.
one's pleased. I'm just hurting
Wow.
myself. And it's
Yes.
helped me so much. So I've been playing around with that sort of thing lately.
That's awesome.
Yeah, words, same as what you were just saying. Like
Yeah.
what you say to yourself and what you believe, it actually sinks in.
Oh, it matters so much. Like you really have to be careful and catch yourself on the way you talk to yourself. Like it's so
Totally.
huge because I feel like, you wake up and you're 40 or 50 or 60 and you've been living this life around the words you created, the environment, the
Yeah.
internal environment that you created for yourself. And it's like, hang
Yep.
on a second, you're telling me I could have just changed that to be
Yeah. Oh,
positive?
hold on a minute. I could have just changed that.
Oh, I had control over that the whole time.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
within my power.
Oh, it's so true. Well, and that's the funny thing too. Like I remember a few years ago I was hating my business and I was just
Isn't that fun?
oh far out. Then I go on a little cycle with it.
Me too. Yeah, that's
But
fun.
it's like, but I had to give myself a pep talk and I was like, well, you
Mm.
want to know what? You're the person that made it. So
Yeah,
you're the only one that gets to change it. So, you know? But it's so
you
funny.
decided to do this. You invented this out of nothing. You didn't have
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
Yeah. You
totally.
can
So
also
you don't
change it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to stay
Yeah.
I love that at any moment in time, you can just make another choice.
You know what? This is the exact flip side to what we were saying earlier about how it's constantly changing and that's stressful. It's the
Mm,
exact like polar opposite of that is that
yes.
it's always changeable. So we can
Yes.
completely change whatever we want whenever we want.
Oh, I love that.
So
Yeah.
there's always an endless opportunity of anything. Like literally
Oh,
we don't like we can create and capture anything. But my old business partner, he rang me. So we ran, it was my business, but we ran it together. I
mm,
wouldn't have been able to do it without him. His name's Thomas Ian Doyle. He's a playwright and he's amazing. So my favorite people on the planet. Anyway, he rang me one day and he said, you won't believe it. These people that used to work for me have taken my idea and they've repackaged it and they're making it and they're making money off it. And it was one of my best ideas from the theatre, one of the only ones that actually generated income. And I'm
mm,
not surprised that those two girls are doing that because they were smart, which is why I work with them.
yeah.
But it was hurtful because they didn't even ask me or give me credit because I would just say yes. That's the other part. Like,
Mm. Yeah. You're like, I have
just
a
say
billion ideas. Go for it.
exactly
Mm.
inspired by or thanks to, that'll do. Like,
Yeah.
that would be nice, but at the same time, whatever. Anyway,
Mm.
so I did have that little pang of like, because I thought they're my friends, whatever. And so he's telling me, and I was like, ah. And literally what you just said, I was like, Thomas, if they want to take one of the ideas that I've already done and left behind, I have like 400,000 coming down every single day from the universe. I've got so many, I can't even wait. I'm like, stop, please. I don't have time. I was like,
I am
it's
drowning in
okay.
ideas over here.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm stressed by how many ideas I have. Like the thought of having to borrow someone else's is so foreign. Like if they need to do that, they can have it. Like it's cool. And he just cracked up and he's like, that is the best way to look at it. I was like, it's not even the way I look at it. It's literally just how I feel. And that's the same. It's the first
Mm.
thing you said. So
Yeah.
it's nice to meet you because I feel like I don't actually meet many people like that. Like, it's nice. It's good.
No,
But that's
I
how
love
I
it.
feel.
But it's also like the power of having these conversations. Like another thing we
Mm.
talked about was how you do just sometimes get isolated and you're sitting at
Yeah.
home behind your laptop and you're kind of going a little bit crazy. You maybe haven't left the house in a week. I don't know where you're at. But
I live
it's
on
these
an island.
conversations. Oh my God. I live
I
in the
talk
middle
to
of
the Aldi
nowhere.
guy. Do you? Oh, we're
I'm
the same.
I am like
Oh,
best mates
girl.
with the post office people here.
Me
So
too. I
it's
totally
so
get
funny. But like that's why this podcast is like my therapy.
it.
It's like
Totally.
twice a week or however many times I record it, I get to talk with the best women on the planet. And
Cool. That explains.
oh,
You know what?
so
I
cool.
get it. That's exactly why I'm starting mine with my friend. I get it
Yeah.
100%.
It's so good.
Cool. Good on
And
you. And
sometimes
that's
you
the
just need
thing.
to talk out loud, right? And it just
Yeah.
solves all of your problems. Like literally, when you're like,
Especially when you're a talker. We're talkers.
oh, I
That's what we're here
know.
for.
Tell me about it. And I'm like, I have said no words all day. I need some work. I need to get my words out.
Totally.
But like what
Sorry.
you said before about like everything is changeable, like
Mm,
that just hit. I was like, oh my God, I love that so much. I feel like sometimes I get stuck in a loop and it's
yeah.
like, no, I can literally change my mind,
Everything.
create something today, tomorrow, like
Yeah.
right now, whenever.
Something totally new that you didn't even, okay, so something you didn't even think, you've never even
Yeah.
thought you would do. So just
Mm.
recently, my partner came to me with an idea, and
Oh
I
my
was
God.
like, okay. And it's something that has never crossed my mind. And I thought I'd thought of most things. Like I've
Yeah.
considered being a real estate agent. I've considered being a dentist. Like I'm like,
Wow.
I like imagine my life. I'm like, I could do that. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to
Yeah.
be a pro bono lawyer for women who abuse, like, in mind.
Yeah.
But this idea I had never thought of. And she
Wow.
comes to me, right? And she's like, do you want to buy a boat with me? A sailing boat? And I was like, yep.
I didn't know it until right this second, but that's exactly what I want to do.
Let's do it. I'm like,
Wow.
why not? Because it's something I've never even imagined. And then since saying yes, it was only like a week ago, I keep thinking to myself, isn't it crazy? Like there's so many things. Like you could decide I'm going to move to Egypt
Yeah.
at any point. Or you could go, okay, my friend rings me today. He's like, do you want to do a podcast? I'm like, yeah, right. And who knows where that'll lead? Like, it's so fun.
Yeah. And it's like goes back to when we were saying before, like just have a conversation and you never know where it will lead. It's like
Yeah,
opportunities, ideas, conversations, they are
everywhere.
literally endless.
Yeah,
Like just do one more, like just
yeah,
try another thing and
yeah.
you will inch toward the dream.
Totally. And it's like I've tried lots of things and I'm a very yes person. I think you are too. But
Yeah.
it's like I've started to think about it lately now and I'm like, because there is like we are so privileged that we have that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So first of all, I'm grateful. But second of all, it's like there's so many options, and there's so much potential because we are so privileged. We can literally do whatever we want, even if
Mm.
we think we don't have the resources. There's still a way. Like
Yes,
we're lucky,
always.
but it's almost like overwhelming, and it's like there's too many things you want to do. So
Yeah.
then I go in like a loop, and I come back, and I'm like, I just need to enjoy the journey. There's no destination.
Totally. It's just about the path,
Yeah,
Oh,
be right here right now. But it's like, but it is really fun to me too. Like I think that's
yeah.
what makes someone an entrepreneur, is like that excitement to try new things. Because
Yes.
I remember when I was like, I don't know, I think I was like 17, I was working at Village. Do you know Village Cinemas?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Because we're
Okay,
old
so that was,
people. Yeah.
yeah, so that was my first job and I loved it. And I became like the site trainer and a site manager at 17. I loved it. So I'm
Mm.
running this whole site at 17 and I learned so much from them. It was amazing. But I will never forget this moment. This woman who was a manager there for maybe like 30 years, she's the oldest lady there. Her name
Mm.
was Pam. I'm like full of beans, ready to go, changing everything, doing everything, boom, 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 like winning all the KPIs, getting free Eskies from Coca-Cola, selling tops in a Catwoman suit, like full of energy, loving life.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm now the new site manager and all the staff are my friends and I'm just loving it. And I go out the back and I like put up this sign and I'm like, please, because there was a desk and things were disorganized. So I
Yeah.
said, 1, 2, 3 with pictures, put the thing here, then here, then here. 1, 2, 3. Made it very simple because I'd worked as that and I knew it was annoying. So anyway, I was doing that and I was thinking this will be good. Da-da-da-da. She comes in and she's like, oh, well, good luck. No one's going to do it. And
Thanks, Pam.
I was like, well, I can at least try. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, then they're definitely not going to, if that's how you, like, not with that attitude, but like, you know what I mean? If you don't even
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
So I was only young, 17, and I thought, oh, okay, because I'm thinking, oh, she's been here for a long time. She knows, she's probably
Mm.
right. But then I
Mm.
was like, no, I can at least try. And so I did it and it worked.
Of
And so
course.
from that moment on, I was like, people are afraid of change and I'm
Yes.
not.
Yeah.
So I think like I like to be around people who aren't scared of change. And I think that's an indicator of someone who's like a creative, who wants to live their own way, whether it's artist or entrepreneur. I think they're the same.
Yeah,
really.
I agree. Yeah. I feel you have
Yeah.
to be very creative to be an entrepreneur.
I think so too. I think it's all the exact same qualities in a person. It's just expressed differently.
Yeah.
And I've noticed like entrepreneurs and business people are always the same as me. I'm starting to realize even more, and even right now in this conversation, that they're not actually separate.
Mm.
They're the same. It's just a different expression. Like if you can invent a product, you can make an artwork. It's just techniques. Do you do
Yeah.
anything creative?
I do actually.
What do you do?
Oh, I just love it. So I actually studied fashion design before
Oh,
I got all businessy.
okay.
But literally like side projects this year, I've created an art print series for Spark. So,
Oh,
and all the proceeds go to funding the Women in Business grant. So they're
cool.
all
Good job.
my own original artworks that, you know, and look, don't get me wrong, I'm not a painter. I will not put myself
No,
on the
but you're
same
a
pedestal as
designer.
you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
similar things. Like it's
Yeah.
okay.
Totally. And then just little things like just to get my brain to stop, like knitting
Yeah.
and look, anything
Yes.
with my hands, you know,
Me
like
too.
just like creative things. So I love
I
it.
got my hands on leather recently. And so I've
Oh,
ordered
cool.
leather needles and I've made a journal. It was so fun.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, it
wow.
was so fun. So I'm
That's
like, oh, this is
cool.
cool. And so I'm like playing with the leather. And I'm the same. Like
Yeah.
if we're in front of the TV watching something, I just need to do something with my
Oh,
hands.
same. Yeah, same. I just get so bored sitting still. I just can't handle
Same.
it. It just drives me
Yeah.
bananas. And my brain doesn't stop. So if I'm
Same.
doing something, it can kind of calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that paint the crazy away. It's interesting.
Yes,
I
paint
think,
the crazy way. I feel like that's the mantra for this podcast.
yes, paint the crazy
Oh my
away.
God, that's so good.
Creating calms the, can you hear
Yeah,
the pickles nuggle? Do
a
you
little
want to
pug
see
in the
that? Do you want to see
background.
him?
I would
He's
love
quite
to.
heavy, but I'm
Everyone
going to try.
who's videoing in would love to see a pug on this show. Oh, what a cutie.
Say hi, pickles.
He's
Mm,
huge. I thought he'd be
I know.
tiny.
No, he's a big one. He's 8 years old and he's so
Oh,
noisy. He's like,
oh my God.
hear
I love
that?
it. So cute. That is so cute. Okay. Oh my God. You and I could talk all day. So let's wrap.
Yeah.
Let's give. So I'm so, yeah, after we've had such an amazing chat, but like, I'm like, how do we distill this down into one last piece
Yeah,
of advice?
yeah, yeah.
So I always like to leave the Spark community with one last piece of advice. So based on your
Okay.
journey and your multiple businesses, what advice would you give another woman in business who is on this crazy ride with us?
I would say, um, enjoy change.
Mm, I feel like that
Enjoy.
puts a bow on everything we talked about today.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love it. You are absolutely incredible. Thank
So
you
are
so
you.
much.
So nice to finally meet you and chat. Thank you.
I
Sorry I
know.
missed all the scheduling. I really appreciate you being so relaxed and helpful.
No, that's
Thank
my
you.
bar. Life needs to be relaxed. It's crazy enough.
Totally. No,
No,
you,
you're
it's been
awesome.
so nice to meet you though. Like you've said things that I'm like, oh wow, like I actually want to, I can't wait to meet you in person.